You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. A key to success is start before you're ready. Hello, and welcome to the Unashamedly You podcast, a space to enlighten, encourage, and empower you to go out and unashamedly be who God is calling you to be. I am your host, Jamie Herndon. I pray you hear less of me and more of Him as you listen to today's episode. Let's grow together. Hello, welcome to episode number 10. I am so delighted to have all of you on here with me today and listening to this. We also have a guest speaker with us, and I know you guys are going to glean so many nuggets from. One thing that I hear from a lot of you is, it's amazing the people that have made it, the success stories that we hear, but some of you guys are in the trenches right now and you're growing something or you're starting something and you want to hear from someone that's just like you. They're starting, they're new, they're feeling all of those same nervous feelings that you're feeling. They're stepping out by faith completely. And I'm listening to you. I am understanding completely where you're coming from because a lot of times I'm that exact same way. So today we have someone who is growing a brand new, thriving business and brand. She is doing amazing things in such a short amount of time, but she's still there in the hustle and she's still at the beginning stages and figuring things out. And I know that you guys are going to be really blessed hearing her story. To be honest, whenever I first talked to Ashleigh, she was scared to even make a post on social media. We're going to talk probably a little bit more about that today. But Ashleigh, I'm so grateful that you are on here, and I cannot wait for our listeners to hear your story because I know it's going to be so inspiring and so helpful. So let us know a little bit more about you. Introduce yourself.
I am Ashleigh Weaver. I am a mother of one little girl. She will be 2 in April. I live in Memphis, Tennessee, and I go to Pastor Adams' church. So I moved to Memphis in 2019, and I got married at the end of 2019 in September. And I was in the medical field at that time. I worked in peds and was going to school for my psychology degree. And then I got pregnant with my little one and quit the medical field. And while I was pregnant with her, I just did something kind of part-time just to get me out of the house because I'm not a homebody. And then I was like, you know what? I need to go back to school because at that time, with all the move and everything, I had quit school and just kind of put it on pause because a lot of things were happening in a lot of different areas in my life at the time. And I was just like, you know what? I need to focus on one big move at a time. And so putting that on hold, I think was the best thing for me at that point in time. But after going part-time and finding out I was pregnant, I was like, you know what, it's COVID, like everybody's home. Let's just start doing school again. So I got back into school, finished on my psych courses, and I was due to have my finals on the week I was due to have Eleanor. At that time, I was like, I think at this point in time, I need to put my focus on her. And I had started Blue Magnolia at the time, which was my business that I started. And it was just making simple syrups, all natural, no artificial preservatives. I just started doing it at home because back where I was from in Nashville, a lot of coffee shops were doing their own homemade syrups, and I could taste the difference. And my husband and I are both coffee people, so I was making it at home just for me. And then the family was like, you know what, why aren't you doing this as like something that is full time and start your own business and make Blue Magnolia a thing? So I had the name, I had the product, but I didn't have the confidence to put myself out there and put my product out there.
So the name was Blue Magnolia and you were making it for family. How did you get the name?
Blue was my favorite color, and magnolia was my favorite flower. So that's how I came up with the name for that.
That's awesome. So you said you were in school and you were expecting all those things, but you started doing this business and you were selling it to your friends and your family at some point. So you said that you didn't have any confidence to start this business. So what did you do?
Well, yours truly. I came to our church and spoke at our EntreLife meeting, and kind of just you shared your testimony, you shared what you went through. You talked about stepping out of your comfort zone and just doing what you like, what your passion is and what you're passionate for. And I remember feeling, I get a little emotional still talking about it. Sorry. But I remember feeling so much anxiety because I knew that it was something that I wanted to do. And I knew that I wanted to be able to do something where I could be a semi stay at home mom, and take care of my little one. But also, I had a desire to do something with Blue Magnolia as well. And I had a lot of support from my family. Of course, family's like, you can do it. You've got this. Your syrups are amazing. They're going to do great. You need to be selling it. But it's one thing to hear that, but it's another to put yourself out there and to overcome all the fears that you had. And of course, I had the fear of, it not being successful, of it failing. I'd never done anything like that before. And I remember coming up to you after the meeting and kind of just telling you about it and just expressing like my fears on starting Instagram or, building a website or anything and anything that had to do with starting the business. And I remember you were like, no, you need to do it. And I was like, but I don't know how, I don't know. I don't know how to start it. I don't know how to do anything, on that end of like promoting myself on social media or anything like that. So I remember going home and I was talking to my husband and I was like, I think I want to make this more, more of a thing and to start a business with doing this, and of course, like along with the fears of it not being successful was also the fear of like all the money that goes into starting a business, that was a big pressure for me too, because at the time I had quit my job and we were just living on my husband's salary. So of course, all those things are going through my mind. Like, this is going to be a lot. This is going to be expensive, not a lot per se to like start an Instagram, but if I wanted to take it to the level that I wanted it to be at and to take it seriously for a business, I wanted to have a website and I wanted my product to look presentable and nice and professional. So all those things were going through my head. Then I was like, you're crazy because you're about to have a kid, and I was like, am I doing too much? And at the time we were like about to sell our house and just a lot of life changes were going on at that time. There was just a lot happening and I was newly married. So a lot of stuff was going on. But I remember I took that step and we did all the things. We made the Instagram. I put that first post out there. We built the website, and I'm so grateful for my husband because he has done all the things for me. He has built my website. He has designed my labels for my product. He's all on that side of the work. So he's a great coworker for sure. So I started the syrup business in July 2021. That was great. It went off on a great start. I started making connections in the community. Memphis is very big on local support. So I feel like that was in my favor. And, just having a all natural product out there was also in my favor as well. Of course, I still had the fears that every small business owner has. And there were some glitches in the production and things like that that I had to work through. But I started getting my syrups out there into different coffee shops and things like that. It was great to see. It was stressful at times because I started having to produce more and balance a whole lot of things. Starting the business, I had a newborn, all the things.
Okay, so you started this business. You decided to make the post. How did you feel whenever you made that first post?
Uh, I was definitely stressed about it. I think I stressed a lot about it beforehand. I put a lot of thought into it beforehand to where when I made the official post, I knew that I wanted it to look a certain type of way. And I wasn't as stressful when the post went up. I think it was the days
The
prior.
before getting it
Yeah.
all together. So I know so someone listening to this podcast right now, you may have a product and it's amazing and you're sharing it, or you may have an idea, or you may have something that you feel in your heart you're supposed to be sharing with other people. But getting your name out there, getting yourself out there, it's one thing to tell your parents and to tell your family and your sister, and even if your family tells you that you're crazy, it's totally different coming from them than just random people that when you put it online, you literally put it for all the world to see. And so everybody can have an opinion, and you think of all the opinions they're going to have before they even see the post, before you even make the post. Isn't it funny how we get ourselves so worked up that usually none of those opinions are formed? Like, people are way more supportive in real life than they were in our head. In our
For
head, they're
sure.
like thinking all these things, and we tell ourselves all this stuff, and people are actually supportive. And you're like, wow, they actually do care. They actually did want this. I should have started this a long time ago. So you've made your post and you've started your business. You've got your syrups going, and you said that you had put them in the different coffee shops, but you had a baby during all this time too, right?
Yeah.
So how was it having a newborn, making coffee syrups, getting it all out there? How were you balancing that?
I have to say I had some help at the beginning. My mom graciously stayed for about a month once I had Eleanor. And I, at that time, had taken a little bit of a break because while I was pregnant with Nora, I had lost all taste of coffee. I didn't want to smell coffee. I didn't want to taste coffee. That was just one of my aversions that I had when I was pregnant with her.
That's
So,
like the worst aversion for a person that's making syrups to sell for
yes.
coffee.
So I had to take a break because I couldn't experiment with any of my products to make sure, that it was good enough to go out to customers. And so I took that break. I had her, and then I don't remember exactly what date it was that I started being able to start back with making the syrups and everything. But I did. And Nora was a chill newborn, I have to say. Um, so she gave me a little bit of time to do what I needed to do, production side. But there were times where it was like everything that I had planned was just not going to happen. And I remember getting stressed a lot because wanted to have all my posts scheduled for a certain time, and I wanted to have production days scheduled out, and all of those things, that you write on paper and you schedule out that doesn't happen, and you have to realize that's life. And I think it took me a little bit because I was so used to being able just to do things one way, and then your baby comes along and changes your whole world, and in a good way. But I had to learn to kind of balance those things, and it may not have happened at this exact time. It may have happened later during the day, or just completely had to change it to the next day. But that's how I kind of balance those things.
I
And
think people do not realize it's like, oh, they're starting a business or, business owners, but especially moms that are business owners or moms that are trying to do anything at all.
Mhm.
It's a whole
Yeah.
different level than it is for anyone else. I feel like my husband can get all this stuff done and he comes home. I'm like, she's alive. That's what I did today is like, I kept her alive.
Right.
I'm not exactly sane, but she's alive. And, that's what we did today. We kept
Yeah.
ourselves, here. One thing that I also say is I really don't use the word balance. I like to use the word prioritize because
Yeah.
some things just become a big priority. And that was my priority for the day. Like,
Yeah.
just being.
Yes. I like that.
And that's our priority, just eating and keeping everybody safe
Right.
and here. And then some days your priorities can change and you're like, oh, these syrups are due. I've got to get them in here. And that has to be a priority. I have to make sure that that happens today. So it's a lot of fun being a business owner as a mom, an entrepreneur, but you have to learn all about priorities and what days what's a priority and what days, other things can be your priority. So you started off with Blue Magnolia and you were simple syrups, and that has grown. Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
Yeah. So it took off and I just started connecting with all these different coffee shop owners and just building relationships. And that to me was a big step personally because I am a people person. I can talk and I'm not shy at all to talk to you. But when it came to the business side of things, because this was all new to me, I kind of was like, I don't know what to say. How do I like present myself, to the owner of this coffee shop? Or, I was just super nervous to start a conversation or just like, hey, I'm Ashleigh with Blue Magnolia. I have this product, and just like everybody says, sell yourself or sell, the product. And so that was a little nerve wracking.
Yes, it is.
Nerve
It is a
wracking.
lot scarier to sell yourself than it sounds. My husband always says people are like, I'm not in sales. I could never do sales. He's like, yes, every person is in sales. You have sold yourself to your friends to be your friend. You
Yeah.
have sold yourself. If you're married, you sold yourself to that person. He always says that. He's like, everything that you do, you are selling, and people do not realize that. And if they learn the art of that, but putting yourself out of your comfort zone
Yes.
and walking into those coffee shops, I can only imagine how scary that would be.
Yeah. And so I made some great friendships along the way, and I'm sure we'll get to this later, but starting the next avenue of the business, I've been able to keep those friendships close and gained a lot through them. So we still have Blue Magnolia, simple syrups. I'm still supplying a lot of coffee shops, but we've taken some bigger steps in the business. Walking into the coffee shops, overcoming that initial like fear that, you're not going to sell the product the way you want it. You're not going to make the impression on the business owners that you want. I want to say that my first coffee shop that I walked into to sell my product was Crazy Gander downtown. And I had talked with the wife. It was a couple, they owned this coffee shop. And we kind of just connected on a mom level, a businesswoman level, kind of just started chatting. And I think because we had those different, not just like we're business owners, but I think because we connected on a lot of different levels personally, just being a mom and our little girls were around the same age and things like that, it kind of broke that barrier for me to go in and just be more comfortable and just be like, hey, we have this product, telling them what it's about. And would you like to try samples? I'd love to stay in contact with you. And I want to say that was my first initial encounter, and it got a little bit easier after that. But there's a little bit of nerve wracking with every new coffee shop that I walked into.
True. I can only imagine. So there's some big things for Blue Magnolia that's going on. Tell us a little bit about what's going on. What's this next step that you're taking?
Yes. So Blue Magnolia has blossomed into Bloom Coffee and Supply. whenever I started the syrup business, I knew that I loved coffee and I wanted to learn more about coffee. You know how you always write down your dreams and your goals. And that was one of mine, is to start a coffee shop. And I knew that it was going to be down the road a little bit, but I wanted to kind of make tiny steps to get there. So with a lot of prayer and research and all the things that go into it, my husband and I, we made the decision to buy a mobile coffee cart. And the name Bloom, a lot of people pronounce it different ways, but we wanted a different name. And so we wanted something that kind of had a little bit of a story behind it. And so Bloom is a mixture of blue magnolia along with the coffee industry of the word bloom. And then kind of also on our end of the business, just blooming into another level, blooming into another aspect of the business for us. And so Blue Magnolia is a mobile coffee cart that we go to different events and we set up for parties, birthdays, weddings, corporate events, all different things.
That is incredible. So you started with coffee syrups 2 years ago. You did not even want to make a post on social media. And this just blows my mind. So within 2 years' time, you started getting your coffee syrups out there. You got them out all around Memphis. And then you started a mobile coffee cart and you're calling it Bloom. How do you spell Bloom? You spell it differently, right?
Yeah, so it's just BLUEM.
BLUEM. It's so pretty. I love that name. So you started the mobile coffee cart and then you've even branched off into more things, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
So starting the mobile coffee cart, I did pop-ups a lot at our local, I guess it would be like a mercantile store. And I just started praying for God to just open different doors that I don't see, help me with relationships with people that aren't existing right now. And I just wanted the business to grow. I feel for a little bit of time. Once I started Bloom, I kind of got discouraged a little bit because business kind of decreased a little bit. And I think it was just, people kind of getting used to the name change and the business being something else besides just simple syrups. And I got discouraged and I was just like, I'm not seeing any good come out of us making that next step. And so I just remember one night I was very stressed and very down because we had spent all this money to expand the business and to go further. I don't know. I just felt like a failure. I felt like a failure. I felt like the business was just not going to take off and it just wasn't doing what I thought it was supposed to do at that time. And financially, it was a lot. My husband and I have always said that we want to be givers and we want to give towards the kingdom of God. And we want to be able to be that for our church, be able to do that with our businesses. And so knowing that and then seeing the decline, I was just like, something's not right. I'm not doing something right. Maybe I'm not supposed to do this. I just remember praying and I was like, I don't know what is wrong. Maybe I'm not supposed to do the coffee thing anymore. Or maybe I just need to go back to the medical field and just have like a regular job again. And to be honest, I started looking for a job because I was like, this is putting financial stress on us.
All the distractions the devil always throws at us right before God's going to give us something.
And I was like, maybe this is just not meant to be at this time. So I started looking for jobs. I started like filling out resumes for different medical positions and nothing was happening. And I was like, I had the tug of war between the business wasn't doing what I wanted it to do, financial stress for starting this new phase of the business, mom stress. But also I had the worries of if I go back to work full time, I'm not going to be able to be with my little one. And I told myself when I had her, I wanted to at least have her until it was, time for her to go into kindergarten. And so all of those things were happening. I was emotional, stressed, all the stuff. And I remember praying and I told God, I was like, I don't know what's happening. I don't want the business to fail. We put a lot into it. But if I have to go back to, a corporate job, then that's what I want to do. And my husband was like, if you feel like that's what you need to do, but also you've put a lot of commitment and you've put a lot of work and prayer into this business. And are you sure that you just want to, you sure you just don't want to push past it and see where it goes? And so I did. I stopped filling out. stopped filling out applications, and I was just like, I'm going to dig in and I'm going to do this.
It's so crazy to me how so many times things like that happen where we feel overwhelmed, we feel stressed, and we start wondering, is this really right for me? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this the road that I'm supposed to be taking? And everybody feels that way. Everybody at some point in their business feels that way more than once. All the growth that we take, the new steps that we take. But it's crazy that it's like once we make that decision that, no, this is what I'm going to do, it's almost kind of like, maybe we do it to ourselves, but also sometimes I wonder if God isn't saying, okay, so are you really going to trust me? There's, these things have come up. You've got to get over these roadblocks, but are you going to trust that I can really carry you through this and that I can take you to these next steps? And then once you realize that and you start saying, you know what, I'm making the decision, I'm going all in, I'm going to give God all my trust, and he's going to be able to do whatever he wants to through me, with me, and with this. And I'm going to trust him that he's going to carry us through. Then it's like, that's whenever doors start being able to be opened.
Yes. With going forward and pushing through, I did make the ultimate decision to put Nora into Mother's Day out 2 days a week so that I could kind of have a little bit of prioritizing to what needed to be done and making time to still be able to make my syrups and still supply the coffee shops that I had wholesale accounts with, and then also put, some energy into pushing the new Bloom into existence. So I started doing different pop-ups at our local farmers market. And then I also started doing pop-ups at this mercantile store on our little square, and just kind of started up a relationship with the people there and the general manager there. And I remember I went in to ask him, and all this time I'm still praying, like, is this what I need to do? Are you sure? Like, I was just asking God for strength. So I remember going into the mercantile store at the time and just like putting myself out there again with Bloom, and kind of was just like, I love the store. I love the vibe of the store, and I would love to do pop-ups here. If I knew that they had different companies come in and do pop-ups and on the weekends. I talked to the general manager and we just set up different times for me to come in and do pop-ups. So that was great. I did that on some Saturdays along with different farmers markets and things like that, and kind of just built a customer base with that, and just got more opportunities to do pop-ups at different locations. But I always had people asking like, oh, are you going to be somewhere permanently? Are you going to be somewhere not just on Saturdays? And I think at that time I had talked to the general manager at the mercantile store, but nothing was set in stone. So I feel like I was just like talking in faith. But I would tell people, I'm like, I may have an opportunity to be able to be set up permanently at Cy Wilson's, which is the name of the mercantile store. It's still kind of in the works. So I did the weekend thing for a while. And then I told my husband, I was like, I wanted it to come naturally and just organically have the conversation with them to possibly have a spot in the store. I went in one day just to let him know, I'm ready. Is there an opportunity? We talked about renting a whole different space. It just wasn't going to work out space-wise. And so I was like, it's not for me at that time. Well, then he was like, you know what? He said, there's another space that's coming available once the holiday season's over, if it's something that you want to talk about. And so after the holidays, we worked out all of the details, and I was able to permanently have a spot at the store that my husband and I had talked about getting into and praying about. If it's God's will and it works out, then it would be great to be able to get our foot into the door and to have like a spot in this building. The first week of January, I moved into a spot into the store that I now rent, and we are open Thursdays through Saturdays now. And Bloom has a permanent spot in that store, which is crazy when I look back on it, because when we first moved to the area, we would drive by that store and I'm like, that store would make like the perfect coffee shop. And we were just like, it just has all the things that we love. So, we just prayed about it. And I'm like, if it's something that happens to where I can get in to that location, like that would just be great to have the opportunity. It worked out and it's been great. It's been 3 weeks since we've been open. And if you would ask me last week and this weekend how it was going, I probably would have told you that your girl's done. No, this past week has definitely been an emotional roller coaster on so many different levels. So on top of having the permanent space, I also still do events. So I had a wedding this weekend, and a lot of things were adding up that was stressors. But so I was supposed to be at the wedding at 2, had everything together, had my car packed, had all the things, and get in the car to go, and my car won't start. So of course, like emotions, I called my husband and I was like, I don't know what's happening. The car won't start. I've been driving this car. It's been fine. I was already just like stressed with like other things. And at this point, it's like a make or break for me. Like, I'm just going to call people and tell them I'm just not going to be able to do it. And Jay was like, are you sure you want to do that? Like, you can make it, you can get there. And so I was just like, no, I was like, there's so many stressors. I had the people at the shop, they were just like, they're opening an hour early for me. And so whenever I had to close that Saturday for the wedding, that brought up an issue. And so I had the stress of like, I need to hire somebody because I don't need to be closed, but I have nobody in mind. Finding somebody to keep Nora, that was an issue. And family has been great, and they came to my rescue. So I'm so thankful for them. And then just like the car not starting and just little things that just added up, and I was like, again, back out doubting, like, is it worth it kind of thing for me at this point. It was just a downtime for me. Thankfully, my brother-in-law came and he saved the day. I was able to get out there, and it was great. That I've had so many of those little times where I've second guessed. I'm just like, is this something that I'm supposed to be doing? I think Saturday probably would have been my breaking point if I would have let it be my breaking point. If you let your breaking point be the end and you don't kind of push back, and you don't go a little bit past what you think your breaking point is, then you never know, like, it could be your biggest blessing right past that point. You could have a huge opportunity that you never thought a door could open, that, you've been praying for it to be open. And if you don't just push past that, the stress, the frustration of what life brings you on top of everything else, then you would never know. Like, I would never know that the wedding was going to be great. And now I have opportunities for a whole other wedding, and hopefully we'll be working with this wedding planner in the future. And it's just tiny things that just add up. And then you're like, it's not meant to be, it's too stressful. It's too stressful on me. It's too stressful on my family. And it's like, no, push past it. And to say that I am to that point where I'm just like, oh no, push past it. You're going to be great. No, because I feel like I'm still going to have to tell myself that down the road very soon, and just be like, Ashleigh, like, you can do this. Like, you've prayed for this. You've prayed over this business. You prayed God's blessing, his will, because I want to take this business and be able to use it, to reach people, just connect with people, to further the kingdom of God financially, all the things that I've prayed over for this business to be. Just having to realize that not everything's going to go as planned. Hiccups are going to arise, whether it's in your family, a business plan that you've had, just all the little things that just add up that can cause you to feel like you're at that breaking point.
Every time that we go after something and we have a new level of growth, I've heard this said so many times, and they said new levels, new devils. And it is so true. It's like, as soon as you feel like that, everything's going to be okay with one step, now it's probably nothing for you to sell your syrups and to make your post, but then it is a whole different step for you to be at a permanent location, people expecting you. But also the explosive growth that you've had is absolutely insane. It's been incredible to watch that. Literally, so you started in what, 2021?
Yes.
With the syrups. And to know that you started at the very beginning with that, and then not even a full 2 years later, you have syrups in stores all around Memphis, and, a permanent location that you never even thought that you would be able to have, going to weddings. Like, all these things feel like stressors, but they're like really good problems. Like, you're having your coffee's obviously amazing, and your syrups are obviously amazing. The devil wants us thinking those things, like to feel the stress and to feel overwhelmed. Is it really God's will? But that's one reason why I'd ask you to come on this podcast as well, is because I know there's a lot of people that, one, hasn't even started yet. They're where you are whenever you said you were too nervous to make that post, or two, we're in the trenches together, and Unashamedly You is all about that, about starting something and being something and doing something and going after something without having it all together. We don't all know what we're doing. We don't all feel relaxed all the time, but we all have dreams and goals that we're not put there by ourselves. They were put there through prayer, and they were put there for a reason, knowing that God has it all under control and that he's going to help you every single step of the way. One thing that I thought about, and this is one of my favorite scriptures right now, but you said that you had drove past that building and was looking at it, and you're like, this would be the perfect coffee shop. And I love the New International Version, but it's of Ephesians 3:20. It says, now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us. And I thought of that verse whenever you were talking about seeing that building and talking about, we wish we could be in there, but things weren't working out, not being able to be in there. But now unto him who is able to do immeasurably more than we can think or imagine. And I always tell the Lord, like, Lord, I can think of really good things. I can imagine some really amazing things, but you're able to do immeasurably. You cannot even measure. I cannot even measure. It's immeasurable what you can do and what you want to do through us and with us. So thank you so much for hopping on here. What is some advice that you would give somebody? You just gave a lot of advice that's really good, but what is some advice that you would want to give someone that's wanting to step out? They're wanting to make that first post, or maybe they feel like you, they feel super overwhelmed in their business, and they're not sure which way to go or which way to start. What piece of advice would you give them?
To be honest, your advice of just like, step out there, just take that initiative, like, try it, you never know. If I wouldn't have taken to heart what you said and just been like, hey, let's just do it and see what happens, we would obviously, I wouldn't be here. It took a push for sure. One thing, I think one of the big things for me was just having to realize that I'm not doing this by myself. I had to ask God for courage every single day. There's one thing that I pray every time I'm praying over my business, and it is, God, this is your business. I'm just your worker. So I need you to give me the strength, the courage, the wisdom to do what you want me to do and to do your work. It seems like it's a simple syrup business, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't have this business without him. And I continually pray for wisdom and courage, because there's different levels that I will go to in this business that I have no idea what I'm doing. And it gets overwhelming. I can't lean on it just by myself. I have to put my trust in God. I have to realize that this business is his.
One thing that I always think of too is you're either walking by faith or by sight.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're walking by sight, then you know everything that's going on. You know what to do. You know what to face, but you're not walking at the level God's asked you to walk at. If you are walking by sight and you know how to do everything and you're comfortable there, then you're not walking where God wants you to walk. He wants us in the spot where we're having to walk by faith. That's why he opens more doors, and that's why he leads us to new things and to new opportunities and gives us more, especially when we're praying and we're praying for those things, is because he wants us walking by faith. And whenever you are doing this new level of work and you've got these new opportunities that are going on, it's not by sight anymore. It's not just making the same syrups that you were making, doing the same things that you were doing. This is a new level. So it's walking by faith. And as soon as you have this down and you feel comfortable, God's going to open up another door and he's going to shove you out again. And he's going to say, hey, you can stay here and walk by sight, or you can go here where I'm calling you to, and you can be walking by faith.
Yes.
So that was so good. But tell us more about these syrups and how do you get them? If someone wants some of these syrups and they're listening to this podcast, how do you grab them?
Yeah, so they are all natural, no artificial preservative syrups. You can find the syrups at bloom.coffee. You'll find our syrups there. We have also started making our own soy wax candles as well. So that's been a whole addition to the business as well, along with the syrups. And the Instagram handle is Bloom, BLUEM.coffee is where you will find us on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing all this today. And if you are coming to the Unashamedly You conference, hopefully you guys will be able to try some Bloom coffee syrups and see Ashleigh there in person as well. Ashleigh, thank you so much for sharing all this. I know that it's going to be so helpful to someone that they're in a decision-making time. They're in a time where, hey, they want to step out of their comfort zone, but they just need to take that first step. And I know that your story is going to encourage so many people to do that, which is the whole point. We want to grow the kingdom of God. We want every single person that is being called to do something and to go after something to unashamedly go after it and to do what God is calling them to do. So thank you so much for taking your time and for being on here with me.
Thank you for having me.
If you were listening to this podcast today and you're like, you know what, I am right there. I have something that I know God's put on my heart to do. I want to do this thing. I have this passion, but I don't know where to start. I don't know exactly what to do. You should join our Facebook community. The motivation and inspiration that you need will be at your fingertips every single day. Life is a journey, and it's a lot more fun with the community cheering you on. Also, please do not forget, if this podcast blessed you in any way, go share it to your social media, leave us a review, and subscribe so that you can get that notification every Friday when our new episode releases. Have a great day.